Oh, BitTorrent typey flippy dealy
Yeah.
thingy.
You're making a server basically for file transfer.
Got it. All right. And that was in here. Did we give it a cool name? Is this just it? The 440 network client and server?
Yeah. So we were working on the server.
All right. So what does our server currently do? It sits there forever, waits, accepts something, gets a connected client, spawns off that thread. It adds that client to
Our linked list of clients.
to our linked list of clients up here, and then tells the thread to start. Inside of our connected client, we have the ability to send messages. Oh, we were making a chat server.
Yeah, but then you decided you wanted to make it.
Right. So what we have right now is we have a functional chat server. So the next step is we're actually going to build something like BitTorrent.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Got it. I'm back with us. All right. So what we need to do, let's just come down here. So we have our server. And then we need to have a bunch of clients connecting to our server. But we'll just create a scenario where we have 2 clients for our diagram. All right. This client has a file they want to share. This client has a file they want to download. Okay, so we're going to start off by moving files between between 2 clients using a server in the middle. Okay. So both of these guys will open up a connection to our server.
Bothers me a little bit.
Yeah, you got the right one.
I have a who?
The right one slightly. It's no longer aligned with the left client. You need to pull it down a little, or move the left one up. Oh, no.
That
Sure. It's better than before, yeah.
human centipede?
Who wants to be in the middle?
There we go.
All right.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
So they're both connecting.
But the one arrow is on the edge now.
Oh, just relax. I don't know if you saw on Facebook, if you're friends with my wife on there. My wife got called a prude by an 85-year-old woman.
For what?
Well, we went to the beach 2 separate times. The second time we went to the beach was after I caught my shark because I decided I wanted to try to catch one by hand. And she doesn't do the water. She definitely doesn't do that. But then she also doesn't do. The first time we went to the beach, she did the sand. She didn't like the sand. Got in her shoes. Didn't like the sand. So the next time, she sat on a bench on like the boardwalk area. So I'm doing like beach stuff, using that as my starting point while she's sitting there with my clothes and stuff. And I cross the bike paths and stuff like that, wearing my Speedo. And I get to the ocean, and there was some old lady came up to her and started talking to her. It was like oh, she was taking pictures of me in the water, like a whale. Frolicking whale. And so the lady was talking to her, and my wife says, "Oh, I don't do the water, I don't do the sand." And she called my wife a prude. She was right.
Wait, when did the Speedo disappear?
Huh? Yeah, it's awkward. It is. The bike riders are coming by. Where are your bottoms? It's strange. So I have to lift the gut up for the reveal. No, my wife would admit it. She is a prude. It's like, oh, the sand is too messy. It's too dirty. And then she was yelling at me when I came back to the bench because I had sand. There's like, they have like water things to wash your feet off of, and I didn't get all the sand out from between my toes. So I'm sitting there and she's cleaning out my toes. She doesn't want me to put my socks on and get sand in her suitcase. It's like a giant 4-year-old. I'm sitting out there. She's cleaning my feet, putting my socks on. But now I request it. I say, I want her to install my socks. That way I don't have to bend over. It's easier. All right. What was I talking about? Oh, client server. All right. So, anyways, we have 2 different clients. This guy wants to share a file, so we're gonna change his color. That's weird. Why did it uncenter? Doesn't matter. Okay, and this guy's gonna receive a file. All right. Now we already have a setup that allows us to send text, and we are messing with that using our terminal, right? Now our terminal, this guy here, when I do a telnet connection, this guy automatically knows how to send text data back and forth over sockets. But now I don't want to send text data. Now I want to be able to send digital data, binary, right? Well, first of all, I need to be able to select files that I might want to share. So when our client connects, the client's going to be asked 2 questions. Well, we ask 1 question. Do you want to send or receive a file, right? So when the first guy connects, he's going to say, I'm sending a file. All right, so he's seeding it. So he's kind of he's one of the BitTorrent guys who's currently seeding this stuff, and he's probably one of the originals, not the people who already finished downloading and then left. The leechers. He's not a leecher, he's a seeder. Okay, or might have been phrasing, I'm not sure. Okay, so in any case, we have to build our own client for this because our client now needs to do more than just send text. All right, so that's why we need a client to talk to our server. So right now, this is our server code. And what we're going to do, these are our, well, let's just do this initially. We have our connected client. Did we start using this response thread already? There's our response thread, that's fine. So the response thread is here. We build it, we pass in the client, we also give it access to all the clients from the driver, more local, easy access to it in case we need that. And then while true, we're just getting messages. But now what we want to do is we actually want to ask them some questions. So we're going to change our code in here. It's no longer going to broadcast the message to everybody like we had it doing before. Okay, now we're going to say this dot the client dot send message. Is that right? No, we actually want him to receive this message. I have to go look at our client. Send message, write something out to them. Get message, read something in. So I want to send a message to them. So that was right to begin with. All right, so the message we're going to send is share or download. Something like that. All right, then we want to actually receive a message from them. This dot the client dot get message. And this will be the answer. All right, and for right now, we'll just echo it back to them. So then we'll say this dot the client dot send message the answer. All right, so as of right now, our clients are always prompted with a question, and then we read in the answer. We're probably going to give them some sort of menu here shortly, but that's what they do right now. Okay? Now, what I want to do is I want to go ahead out to my terminal. Well, here, I can run the server from in here. So go ahead and start the server. So the server's waiting. And then I'll do telnet localhost. Was it 1234? Yep. Do you want to share or download? I'll just say share, and it pumps it out to me. Okay, makes sense? All right, so it's asking me some questions. Now, if I say share, what should happen next? It should let me see my files that I have access to, right? Okay. Now, what we're going to do, just to make this relatively easy, is we're going to have a local folder that's like hard-coded. You know, the idea is we're going to like share a, when you install our client application, anything you want to share has to go in the share folder, let's say, as opposed to us having a text-based, because we're not going to do a GUI thing for this, as opposed to having a text-based directory structure thing for us to go and find a file. So in any case, we want to have files that they can look for. That's where we're going to run out of, that's where we're going to run into problems using this as our client, using our terminal as our client. So that's when we need to go to our client application. So, whatever. So we kill off our server. Let's go back over to the client now. What does our client currently do? Well, it's going to connect to an IP address. I'm going to change it to localhost 1234. It gets the input stream, writes something out, blah, blah, blah. So right now our client does not do much. We need to build our client so that it works pretty similarly to how our server works, right? So our client needs to have the ability to have an ongoing conversation with the server. So we connect, we create our input stream, we write out to our local screen whatever we read in, and then we're going to create our output stream and write something back. We're going to need a second scanner. This scanner reads from the socket. We're going to need a scanner, scanner terminal input is equal to a new scanner from system.in. Okay, so now I have one scanner that knows how to read stuff from the socket, the input stream of the socket, and I have another one that knows how to read stuff from the input stream that is our standard input, which is our keyboard. So before I write something back out to the server, I need to ask my local user. It's going to print out the question from the server. Do you want to share or what was the share or download? Okay, whatever. Okay, so it's going to, whatever it receives from the server, that question, it's going to print out to our screen, system.out.println. That's how we print stuff locally, right? Then we're going to read in from our user. Terminal input dot next line. So that'll read it in from our user. And now we'll do system.out.println locally read the answer. So that's proving to us that we read in from our local scanner, terminal input rather, whatever we entered. Now we're going to send it over the socket. Output dot println the answer. Okay? And finally, we just happen to know that we're going to read one more thing in. So we're just kind of hard coding this to work right. We'll read in that last echo statement back. So right now, what does our server do? Our server spits out, it receives the incoming connection, it spits out the question, it receives our answer, and then echoes it back to us. All right? So we connect, we build the ability to read from that connection, we print out the question that we just read, this is on the client, give us the ability to write back out to the server, give us the ability to read in from the local user, read in from the local user, print out locally what we just read in locally, and then actually write out to the server what we read in, and then print out what the server responds back with, which right now is just an echo. Okay? So this is moving us back into client territory. So what I'll do is I'll go ahead and in my terminal, that's the server, I need the client, so I'm going to right click on this, I'm going to say show in System Explorer. So I'll move it to that directory where our client code is. All right, do I have my server started yet? So I'll go back to our server, go ahead and start it. Now I'll go out to our client, and we'll run our client. Do you want to share or download? We'll say share, locally read share, and then it spit back out. Okay? It's asking me to share or download again. Is that in a loop?
Yeah.
Okay.
While
Perfect.
true.
All right, so now we have our client basically acting like Telnet was acting, right? Okay, so if I say share, at that point I need to then look for local stuff, right? I need to show them the files I have available to me. Now that means we need to be able to walk our directory structure. Now for a lot of us, we've never seen the classes for dealing with the file system on our machine. So we need to go back to the Java documentation. Probably in java.io. Let's start with file. It's a new file at a certain path. No, don't want that. Don't want that. Let's look at what's in here. Nope, don't like that. Seems like Java IO should be where it would be. File reader maybe. Is that going to give us a... Well, let's look at file reader. I initially want to get a list of all the file names in the current directory. So this will allow me to read stuff in from a file. We're going to need this in a little bit once we pick our file. But my idea here is I want to have a single directory that maybe has our MP3s in it, something like that. And I want to show them a list of which file would you like to share and let them pick from there. So Java directory listing. File class gives me a directory listing. So a file is a copy of a okay, so I can create the path to be probably /. Let's see what that does. Okay, that'll tell us whether it's a directory. List. Perfect. All right, so I'm going to come out here real quick. We'll kill this guy off. And I'll go ahead and make a directory called my files. And inside of my files, start with that. So back in the client code, go ahead and kill the server real quick. Instead of writing that out, let's just go ahead and make sure we can read from that local directory. So we'll say file, my files, dir, is equal to a new file. And let's see if it'll let us do this. So // says look in the current directory and look in the directory called my files in there. Okay, it's going to want us to import Java IO file. Chances are this guy might throw, oh, I already have it throwing an exception, good. All right, so now I'm going to say string array the files is equal to my files dir dot, is it just list? All right, so this will go through, this will create a file for our directory. This will give me the string array list of all the files in that directory, and then go through and spit them out to our local screen for our client. I'll go ahead and start our server back up. Go back out to the client. Recompile the client. All right, good. So there's our file 1, file 2, file 3 for the files we want to read. All right, So now we need to let them choose which file we want them to have access to. All right, so if we say share, so we probably want to start putting some logic. I know we're just kind of monolithically putting all this in main, but since let's just get to that point with what time we have left today. So if they say share, then we're going to show them the list of files and ask them which one do they want to share. So when I say share to the server, let's go ahead and kill the server off. I just kicked somebody else off my server. Who was connected? Somebody was connected. Just you?
No. I don't know your IP address.
Could have been the same as before. Maybe it is. Option. Is that the same as it used to be?
I don't think so. I don't think anyone was on.
Really?
No.
It said connected twice.
Oh, was it for loop?
Oh, yeah, it was because you have a loop and it'll run.
Oh, I have my
hang.
client in a loop.
Yeah, it'll hang when you.
Yeah, we don't want this. I'm just testing you and you failed. Okay, so we have our local files. Once we show them those files, let's make it do this. So we locally read this value. Put some comments in here. Connect to the server. Ability to read from server. And this guy is our ability to read. I'm going to put it up here. Ability to read from the local client. This is our ability to write to the server. That's that print writer. So now we print out what the server said. We read in the answer into our local variable answer. We write that back to the server. And then since we did share, we can actually go ahead and probably interpret the share locally here, since this client is being built specifically to talk to the server, right? What does that mean then? If we tell the server that we're going to be sharing, what's the server going to do in response? It's probably going to put itself in kind of like a prep mode, waiting to receive the file that you're going to be sharing, right? So the server does need to know about that. But I can also locally ask the question, if the answer dot equals share. If that's true, then we'll go ahead and do this crap. So we'll get the files from our local directory that we can share, read them in, go through and maybe do a little system.out.println. Which file? Oh, actually, let's do that afterwards. Share. It's going to be a print. So we'll go through all of our files in the structure, and we'll go ahead and print out pause concatenated with the file name. So that'll be 0, then 1, do pause plus plus. So we'll just index it. Then which file would you like to share? We'll read in a 0 or a 1 or a 2. The index of the file from the files that we'd like to read. Okay. Then we need to read in that file so we can actually use the answer again. The answer is going to be equal to terminal. I'm just going to steal this line so I don't have to worry about typing. The answer is equal to terminal input.next line. So we'll read in what the person said and we'll not do any error check and we'll just assume they put in a legal number from that list. And then we're going to say system.out.println you chose to share the files at bucket integer.parsent the answer. Just proving that we selected the right file. All right. So let's see this guy work now in terms of logic. Make sure we're getting all of our numbers through correctly. Run our server. Recompile. Run our client. We're going to share. Here's the files. We're going to go ahead and select one. So that's going to be file 2. You chose to share file 2.txt. All right, fair enough. So now we actually need to bring file 2 into our application. Somebody else definitely tried to connect that time, didn't they? Really? Are you lying?
Well, maybe somebody did. I didn't get your keys.
Oh, actually, I have this still set up for it's actually fine. My server's not quite up to snuff yet. We're dealing with client stuff. So we'll go back to file. Now I can create an instance of a file. Actually, I don't even need to use file. I can use file reader, which allows me to give the. Actually, I'm going to use it as a file. File reader will allow me to give a string for the file name. But it might be beneficial for me to create a file out of it first because that gives us size and stuff like that. So I'll go ahead and create an instance of file for the file they selected. So we'll say file, the file is equal to a new file dot slash my files slash concatenated with that guy. All right, so we're going to create a new file, which is the file from our my files directory with the file name that we had selected. So now we'll have that file. Now we want to have a file reader. We'll come back to the things that a file can do here in a little bit, or probably next time. A file reader can be built with a file. And if we go down here and we look at things that readers can do, a reader is an input stream reader. Actually, hold on, can we do a scanner? Look at input stream reader here real quick. Going to java.util. Can scanner read files? Ah, I can. So I can create a scanner around our file. go ahead and do that. Scanner. File input is equal to new scanner, the file. All right, so now we have the ability to read in from our file. So let's actually just put something in our file real quick just to prove that we can read it in our last couple of minutes. So we were choosing file 2, right? All right, so only file 2 has stuff in it, but that's okay. So I will say while file input dot has next line. We'll say system.out.println file input dot next line. So that should read in the stuff from that file and spit it locally to the screen of our client. So let's start our server up. Go back over to our client. Recompile. Run, share, bucket 1, and there's the contents of that file. All right, so we read that file in to our code. Now, we can send the contents of this file one string at a time, just like that. But realistically, when you're writing a file sharing program, you're not doing it to share Word documents, right? You're doing it to share music and movies, things like that. So we need to be able to deal with this in binary. Okay, we need to be able to deal with this in a format that we can then rebuild the file on the other end. That makes sense? Okay. So for next class, there's going to be a quiz. And the quiz is going to be on how can we read in a file from Java in binary format, and how can we create a file in Java from binary format. We have the two sides of the coin. We need to read it in here 1 byte at a time, potentially. Then we need to send those bytes over the socket, receive them on the other end, and be able to rebuild a file. So that's the only way we can send a file to another location. Is we're going to be sending stuff over the network. Think of this as kind of like packet switching. We're going to be sending our file in chunks over the network and then ultimately receiving at the other end. Make sense? How do we read in a file in binary? How do we write a file given binary? All right, I'll see everybody on Wednesday.